Self-described Democratic Socialist Senator Sanders met with President Obama earlier today at the White House. My next guest is a Venezuelan immigrant. He says he left a socialist country behind for a reason. New Way Capital partner Erick Brimen with me now. Erick, welcome to the program. Glad to meet you.
Thank you very much for having me.
So how old were you when you came to the U.S.?
Well, my first time was 14 years old, actually. And I went back and forth between studying here in the States and going back to my family. And I've done that now for well over 15 years. Recently, I became both a U.S. resident and a U.S. citizen. And while I'm very happy for myself, a lot of my family still remains in the country.
Yeah, you were just saying you're concerned about even your mom's safety, that the country is in a state of emergency. For those who don't follow as closely, I mean, people are looking in dumpsters for food to either eat or sell. Medicines, hospitals are out of medicine. We know a lot of people don't have power. What is the #1 most common misconception about socialism?
Well, I mean, of course, it sounds great when these politicians give speeches about the great promises of socialism. What they miss to get, however...
Everybody is the same, everybody shares in the common benefits.
Of course, and we will somehow have a more equitable and just economic system if we just centralize more power in the hands of government. And of course, that has never proven to be the case, because when you consolidate more power in the hands of politicians, I must say, especially in a democracy, the natural tendency is for those politicians to promise ever more goodies and giveaways.
But just line their own pockets is the assumption.
In addition to corruption. But even if they were not as corrupt as they've become in Venezuela, the natural tendency is to just give away goodies. And what happens when you do that and you consolidate power and you elevate regulations, the fabric of wealth creation gets eroded away. And as Margaret Thatcher said, it will eventually run out of other people's monies to redistribute.
So are you surprised to what extent the speed at which the situation in Venezuela has degenerated?
No, I mean, in some ways it was to be expected. My surprise actually has been how long it has taken to get to this point. And Venezuela has a lot of oil, as you know. And because of that,
it's a rich country.
It used to be very rich, but it has oil, and because of the oil, the government has managed to stay afloat for over a decade now of redistributive policies. Now that oil prices have dropped, you know, what's underneath all that facade has become a lot more obvious to everyone. It's not oil that's causing the problem, but it is now more evident that underneath it all, there's not a vibrant economy, there's no alternative industries, there's no productive fabric to the country left anymore.
Well, it's also a habit, is it not, for the working class, for everybody who has to get up and work. If you tell them at some point that they don't have to, then an entire population just loses purpose, right?
Of course. I'd like to say that while confiscation and nationalization of assets is a terrible cost, the primary cost to society is how socialism changes the incentive structure, both at the individual and corporate levels. And it not only makes people lazy, but flat out stimulates corruption and cronyism, because at the end of the day, if you have consolidated power, the incentive is to seek it from government, not only through giveaways, but through subsidies and greater anti-competitive regulations.
So, Erick, now that you are a U.S. citizen, are you planning on voting in November?
Absolutely.
Okay. Could you feel comfortable sharing, or if you haven't made up your mind, that's okay too?
Well, I'll tell you who I'm not voting for. I'm certainly not voting for Bernie Sanders nor Hillary Clinton, even if Sanders was an option. I will say this. I sincerely believe that the sentiment that has underpinned Mr. Sanders' popularity is a valid one. He is pointing real problems, you know, where the system has been rigged by politicians. The answer to that problem is not to further consolidate power in the hands of politicians. On the contrary, you know, they are the problem. The answer to a system being rigged from the top down is to make it so that the system itself cannot be rigged. And the way you do that is to remove government from the economy, so that no matter how much pressure politicians receive from special interests, they have nothing to give away. You let the market do its thing. Consumers are very good at knowing what is best for them. And if you're out there and you believe in democracy and you believe in having a say, what better system than one that allows you to vote literally every day for everything that you find valuable and not? And that's a free market economy.
Pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming in. Congratulations on becoming a U.S. citizen.
Thank you very much for having me and for covering the story.